That's a good question. I'm gonna try and be like somewhat political about this, because I've got good friends that are Keller Williams agents, and good friends with the local Keller Williams office here. But how do I feel about it? Well, honestly, I just feel it's misguided is all. Like that's really what my opinion boils down to. Is I feel like it's misguided. I feel like what it is the with real estate agents getting the leads and being the primary like point of contact for clients, which is the way this has traditionally gone. It's just inherent that more and more industries are being devalued, including real estate agents. And really, to me, like what Keller Mortgage is it's a response. Like it's a response to Zillow and Redfin and the devaluing of the real estate profession, in the form of, hey, we're going to devalue another profession so that we can hang on to our piece of the pie. And that's fine. That's fine. And that honestly, like that's their prerogative at the point that they're the ones bringing in the leads most of the time, anyways, right? I mean, that's what Zillow and Redfin do. Zillow and Redfin get their own leads, and then they can devalue whoever they want, right? And so that's kind of the way I see this whole thing playing out. Is like real estate agents right now at Keller Williams a lot of times are the ones bringing in their own business. And so if they're bringing in their own business, then they can devalue whoever they feel like they need to be able to get what they need to out of the transaction. And so my feelings on it are like honestly just the reason that we started this company is we just need to create a shift. Like we just need to make it understood to the consumer that really like the one who understands the intricate pieces of the transaction, or at least the pieces of the transaction where you can get hurt on, is the loan officer, right? Like the financial aspect of that and making sure that you're making the right financial decisions and everything. You shouldn't be making your financial decisions based on who your real estate agent went to lunch with last week or whatever, right? Like you should be making your financial decisions based on who you found, who made you trust them, and you know what I mean, who built that relationship with you. So that's kind of the way that I look at it, right? Like loans before homes is the hashtag that I'm trying to get to catch on, right? Loans before homes. Like we need people to understand that you get pre-approved first, and your loan officer should be the most trusted person in the transaction, because they're the ones that are licensed, that they have to go through the difficult licensing process, and they're the ones that are really dealing with more transactions on average than your real estate agents are. And so that's kind of how I feel about that. For sure. Lead pops is kind of a point of contention, I feel like, in people that generate leads. You either love it or you hate it. There's just two sides to it, and the reason for that is you've got to know how to leverage it, and you've got to understand like what it is that you have, right? And I feel like a lot of people that buy lead pops and kind of watch some of the marketing and get excited about the fact that it kind of makes you feel like that's all you need. And I think that that's lead pop's intention, but I don't necessarily think that's the execution. I don't necessarily think that's where it's at. I think that there are a lot of other tools that you can piece together that make it a good tool as a piece of a puzzle as opposed to an entire solution. So I think that's the number one spot where people with lead pops go wrong, is just having the wrong expectations going into it. The fact is if you use lead pops correctly, it can qualify your customers really well. It can create a higher level of engagement, a higher level of intent behind your inquiries. It can give you something to talk about when you call them. It can do a lot for you. But on the same token, if you don't handle it correctly, people will just bounce off of your lead pops page and never submit their information, which is where people get frustrated with it. So the number one thing I would say is just making sure that you have a landing page in between your ad and the lead pops form. Don't drive traffic straight to a lead pops form. As much as they want to say it's visually optimized to be able to do that, it's not. The fact is if you go and you look at the ads that the big companies are running, your Lending Trees, your Zillows, your Quickens, like all that stuff, right? When you look at the ads that those guys are running, they just look more clean than that. They look more polished. They look pretty, right? And you just don't get that same feeling from the lead pops. And that's just not, in my opinion, that's just not what it's for. I think that like if you shit can a solution to the point of being able to sell it for $87 a month and you can have 50 of these things, I don't think that you can allow the kind of customization and the kind of visual tweaks and stuff that you need to be able to make it look really pretty. So just throw a landing page in between them, and have a call to action button that's just a singular button instead of having the lead form on your landing page, and you'll see your results skyrocket, trust me. Okay, that's kind of a loaded question, but I'll try to answer it. So the reason I say it's a loaded question is really it depends on like what kind of production you're doing, like what systems and processes, how much business can your business handle. If at the point that you could, if you had an infinite amount of leads, like what systems and processes do you have in place to be able to handle that amount of business? So really that's completely subjective and is going to change from person to person. But the ideal thing, like the thing that I want you to understand coming out of this, on the other side of this, if you were asking me this question, the thing that I would want to portray and get people to understand is that you don't want to look at the cost of the marketing, you want to look at the cost per converted deal. Right? You want to look at your point of scalability, your point of leverage. So it doesn't, spending $800 a month in marketing doesn't do you any good if it costs you $1,600 to convert a deal, right? That's one deal every 2 months. That's not going to do you any. That's not going to do you any good. Same thing, if your cost per conversion is only $200. But you don't have the capacity in your business to do more than 6 loans in a month, then spending any more than $1,200 a month on your marketing would be ridiculous. It wouldn't make any sense. So that's really like what I would want people to understand is like get an idea of what it is that your deals are costing you. Like what do your leads cost you? What's your conversion rate on your leads? Historically, use some real data, right? Don't use the numbers that your marketing guy pitched you. Use some real data. And analyze kind of like what that equation looks like, and just find out how much it costs you to convert a lead on the other end, and then use that number to really determine what makes sense for you. Well, the first thing I would say is that if you can afford, if you're coming into this in a good position, right? Like if you just exited your last job or last company or whatever, and you got some money in the bank and you want to set yourself up right, then we need to talk. But that's typically not the situation when somebody's coming into the business. Typically the situation when somebody's coming into the business is, hey, I need to make as much money for as little money as I possibly can. And so with that, I would say that your number one concern is just to fill your pipeline as much as possible, as quick as possible. See as many scenarios as you can. And that may mean taking crappy deals and telling agents, hey, like, I'm a wizard at getting stuff done with crappy credit or whatever, and whatever it is that you need to do to get as many deals as you can. Open houses. I would say figure out how to start building some landing pages so that you can get into the practice of lead generation, online lead generation. Because by the time you get to a point where you can afford it, you'll understand enough about it to really be able to optimize your money. And so I would say start building some landing pages on Instapage. I believe they're free. Lead pages is another one that's pretty cheap. So start building some landing pages and drive traffic to those through free posts and buy-sell trade groups and on community groups on Facebook. Find your local community groups, join them, and then start throwing up stuff in there saying that you'll get people approved for a loan. And you'll be shocked at the number of people that just go through it like crazy. So I would say go that route if you want to start getting into the online lead gen, but just get as many scenarios under your belt as you possibly can, because that's going to be the quickest way to get the knowledge that you need and really take the beating that you need to understand and be able to put together like the perfect solution for your own business.